first guest today embodies the spirit of not just riding, but reinvention. He is one of the original kings of Aussie freeride. A legend who once threw down massive moves on the unforgiving mountains of Red Bull Rampage.
Yeah, for me being at the top of Rampage, it's scary.
That was absolutely excellent.
His life changed in an instant during a training run crash in 2011.
Yeah, like I guess there was this jump that I, had built like a big road gap. Nothing, like I hadn't sort of done already before or anything. Overshot it just, and I remember being in the air, just like, okay, like I've just kind of gone a bit too fast. Like, it'll be sweet, just like put it down. And yeah, literally just like went to move, and yeah, I couldn't move. And I was just like, oh, okay, like this is not good. So yeah.
But for a true rider, the journey never stops. Instead of giving up the bike, he found a new way to push the limits, trading his downhill rig for a hand cycle and his freeride fame for the world stage, becoming a decorated member of the Australian national team at the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics.
There was no real option like to go back to, like riding a mountain bike.
And today, he's still fully immersed in the community, working with the incredible team at Push Mobility to help other adaptive riders find their perfect rig, hit the trails and regain that sense of freedom and independence. Please welcome a man who proves that a setback is just a switch in disciplines. Red Bull Rampage athlete turned Paralympian, the one and only Grant Allen.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Well, Grant Allen, welcome to your worst day ever podcast.
Thank you, Mr. Martyn Ashton, for having me on. I hope it's not the worst day ever.
Well, that
started out pretty good.
Differentiating the title with podcast at the end is important, isn't it? Because just welcoming you to your worst day ever is no fun for anybody. Dude, we can't even start without asking what happened to your thumb.
Yeah. Okay, so my thumb, it's definitely far from good boss at the moment. So my thumb, I actually was out riding with some people from Switzerland that had come over to visit the other day, and we were riding along slowly, and I noticed that one of the shocks on the front of my bike had been bumped and the lockout lever had been moved into place, and I was riding along at probably maybe 20 k's an hour, 15 or 20 k's an hour, and attempting to move the lockout lever back to the correct position. And I managed to have my thumb sucked into the disc brake rotor. And if you're familiar with a SRAM or any disc brake rotor, but especially a SRAM DB sort of disc brake rotor, my thumb ended up in there while I was riding along at that pace, and proceeded to try and chop it off effectively.
How bad is it?
It was very far from good. Like I knew instantly like what had happened, and then I guess trying to retrieve my hand like out of the wheel and things like that, was pretty worried about what I was going to sort of see or find, and pulled it out. And I guess like the positive was it was still there. That was a good start, but then I could see instantly that it was a very macerated and minced mess, and there was a lot of blood that would not stop. Like I didn't realize at the time, but found out obviously afterwards that I severed an artery and minced one of the main nerves in the thumb and things like that. So the artery was
it squirt? Was it squirting?
Yeah, it was like a garden hose. So it was like a garden hose. And there was literally just blood going everywhere, and the Swiss people, Mark and Tanya, who were with me, sort of rolled up next to me like, "Oh, are you okay?" And I showed him, and I was like, "I'm not really that great at the moment," and they were quite shocked to sort of see, and so then it turned into first aid and survival mode effectively. So tourniquet and
oh my
luckily
God.
carrying electrical tape is something that I usually do for like something like that sort of happening. And yeah, thankfully we had electrical tape, and so some other little Velcro straps and bands, and yeah, tourniquet it and yeah, wrapped it up in electrical tape, and then rode home and drove to the hospital.
Was it that bad? You thought you might bleed out?
I was actually like worried about that. I was just like, okay, like I'm gonna have to ride home because I didn't have my wheelchair with me. Like calling an ambulance would have been pointless, and so I just figured the best thing to do was to ride home and yeah, then get to the hospital. But I was pretty conscious of that. But like if I started feeling faint or anything like that, that I knew, I'd have to call the ambulance. But I was just
Jesus, dude,
kind of aware of it, and we got home and eventually got it sorted after a lot of running around and messing around. So
that is. Do you know what? I feel really bad for kind of asking you in a comedic fashion now, because it sounds really, really bad.
It is. It's a funny story. It's just like it's one of those things when something like that happens. Like it's shit at the time, but afterwards, it's just like it's just one of those things. I've had lots of things like that. I'm sure a lot of people have as well. It's just that's life, right?
It is. Is there going to be any like issues with how it moves after once it's healed? Is it like you didn't cut any tendons or anything, or
there's no tendons? Like it actually moves okay, but it seems that I've lost like a fair bit of the sensation at the end of my thumb, and they've sort of said that it'll just have to see how it goes, kind of thing, and. I guess just with the nerve that's been minced in there, it's like two electrical wires, and like if those two wires aren't connected and opposing, it's like they send a bad signal sort of between each other. So it's just a bit of a wait and see thing. So,
dude.
But I mean, this is my throttle thumb. So I think my career as a I think my career as a reach rider could be over.
This sounds like a conspiracy. That's what this sounds like.
Yeah.
You were scared to face Cole Bernier. That's what you would. You were just scared.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there are wild rumors circulating on the internet at the moment about it being a self-inflicted injury, so that I wouldn't have to race Cole. On a reach. I'll now just simply have to apply to the UCI for an exemption to run a left-hand thumb shifter and beat him on the RX instead. So
good luck. For anyone who doesn't
we love you, Cole.
For anyone who doesn't know, Cole Bernier is the legit king of bowhead reach riding, I'd say, and we were all hoping for a big face-off between Grant and Cole, but maybe that's not going to happen now because Grant's chickened out, but there we are. Right, let's talk about you, dude, a little bit now that we've got your thumb in place, because I was reading up on you today, and there's lots to read up on. I didn't know.
All bad things, I'm sure.
There wasn't one single bad thing, but as far as I can tell, there's 3 Grants, actual 3 different individual careers, very different, that I can find. There's the free rider Grant, where we'll start in a minute. And then there's there's like this lycra clad dude that I found on the internet called Grant. That was weird. And then there's the Grant I know who's doing all the cool stuff on Bowhead RX adaptive mountain bikes. So let's start with the Grant. Actually, let's go before Grant Freerider Man. How did you get to free ride? Like, what's your background before you were like, a free ride guy?
Yeah, cool. I guess like for me, I've always loved bikes. I grew up in the country on a farm, always loved riding bikes. Whether it's like
in Auburn, I heard.
Yeah, a little town called Auburn in South Australia. So yeah, a tiny little regional town. But yeah, like I guess like growing up in the country, bikes were just like a huge part of life. And I guess, primarily at first it was BMX bikes, BMX. And that was really where, like everything sort of, started for me more or less kind of thing. Dirt jumps, a little bit of racing, but primarily just dirt jumps and doing dumb stuff. And having fun, really. And I think
what era of BMX was that, dude? What sort of time of who were the riders you were watching at that period of BMX?
Yeah, so I guess like and for me, BMX was like very much like through the 90s and things like that. And I guess like a lot of the the guys like like dirt jump guys. So I guess people like TJ Lavin, Fuzzy Hall. Yeah, look, I guess like I don't know, like lots and lots of different
Bit of
guys.
Taj Mahilic.
Yeah, like Taj Mahilic, Matt Hoffman. Yeah, I don't know. Like there are a lot of guys, like even like Dave Mirra is one as well, who's obviously really iconic. There's like I don't know, like you've kind of put me on the spot there. There's a lot of guys that like I really like liked and just saw, and I guess things are so different back then. It was magazines, there was no internet or anything like that, and everything that we'd get here in Australia was like months old. Like you would get a like I guess like a a BMX Plus magazine, and it was like at the earliest like it was like 3 months old kind of thing. And yeah, I guess just information was scarce and thin. VHS tapes and things like that. I remember some of the my old favorites like Eddie Roman videos and stuff like that. And then I guess lots of different VHS tapes and things. But
Eddie Roman videos,
yeah,
I remember those.
yeah,
They were really great, actually. Yeah, I had a few of those. I wore a few of those out. I watched them so much.
Yeah, you would be familiar with Ride On. Like Ride On is iconic.
Oh yeah,
and just I can always remember watching Ride On. And just like the end clip where like it talks about like BMX being dead, and like if you ride your bike then it ain't, and then it cuts into Fugazi, and like that would always be like my go-to after school, just like like literally like like getting food in me after school and everything like that, and then just like watching that segment and just being like absolutely fired up and just like ready to go out and just wreck myself and have fun, dig, ride, build, just like enjoy riding my bike, really. So yeah, bloody good.
Oh, so good. Who was the guy on that video? Chad
Harrington. Yeah, Chad Harrington. Like
Harrington.
With the homemade bits of bike and just like all the really like wacky like tricks and combos and stuff like that. So, super cool. Yeah, and just like boosting those big flyouts and stuff like that. But I just think like I don't know, like I really love like that era of BMX and stuff, just because it was just like about like it's not the same, everything like all the dirt jumps and things now, like they're like a skate park and stuff. Back then it was just like slapped together and just like what you could make, step ups, flyouts, natural terrain sort of stuff or whatever and things. And there's another really cool video called Cheese, and Cheese was like iconic. There was like just like this section in it where a guy like Brad Blanchard, and he hits this like huge canyon jump like somewhere like in Southern California, and this thing is monstrous. Like it would have to be like like realistically probably like 50 feet across a canyon that was literally like that deep, and it's just like a tiny little like kicker built off of like the flat and no landing. The other side is just flat, and it's just like if you don't make it, you're dead. And literally he just like comes ripping into this thing, shorts and a t-shirt, no helmet, and huge, just like front wheel up in the air, and just like lands flat to the other side, and everyone's like so stoked for him and everything. And it's just like one of those things where it was like the opening sequence to the movie and everything, and you're just like watching it, just like just unreal. So I
loved that era of BMX. It was so good. And what was really great about that era of BMX is that it was really on the comeback after having its weird like glitzy beginning in the like 70s stroke 80s, and then it had died away, and this was its comeback, and it's kind of like the first signs of what it was actually going to become, like what we know as BMX now, right? So it's I love all those early BMX or early 90s. BMX was,
and for the love of riding bikes,
so good.
Just literally out there doing it and making it work. Just like core dudes, like like hard dudes as well. Like just like really
real hard dudes. I was really lucky. I had a conversation with Simon Tabron once,
Yeah.
Who was one of the top vert
I know who
riders
Simon is,
back in the
yeah.
days. Yeah, and he, I was talking to him once, and I said to him, "Oh, you guys are just like so gnarly," and he was like, "We're gladiators. We're the modern version of actual gladiators," because he said every trick has cost each person on these ramps probably 3 to 6 months of their lives.
Yeah.
And I was like, Christ, I hadn't thought of it like that. Like each, you don't, back then you didn't learn a 540 air by,
Foam pits or
you had to
resis or
crash
anything like that.
Like,
yeah.
you had to crash it 20 times, and like crashing a 540 air once is not a great situation on vert.
And I think like
So
that, like
they were
I
tough.
think for myself, like back to then, like everything was like, like really, like do or die, just or like absolutely, like really like eat shit hard, trying kind of thing. And I think, I don't know, like it's just like it's like somewhere where I really cut my teeth, like back then, and kind of like found, I guess, like my calling and stuff, and that was like a really defining sort of part of me for riding bikes, and just realizing that you just had to be hard and you had to take those slams and stuff like that, and like work to build things to ride and stuff like that, like just it's like super cool. It's so different now, like everything is
really different,
made for people now and stuff. And I don't know, I think I can think to like a really defining moment for me, being just like seeing stuff that like I like saw guys doing big jumps and things like that. And I remember like one winter sort of spending like nearly all winter to build what was like a pretty big jump sort of back then, like this big double kind of thing. And like back then there were no like sharing things like photos, or there's no phones or anything like that. And so going to school with my mates and like showing them like a photo that I'd taken of this thing that literally like it takes like a couple of weeks to get the film developed and sent back and everything, and and then like showing them this thing, and like ages afterwards, and them seeing it and being like, no way, you can't jump that, that's like way too big kind of thing. And I remember the day, like, like going to do it and everything, and just being, like really psyched and in the zone, just like, okay, like I'm gonna hit this thing, like this is it. And just like, like I've got to pedal like really fast to make this thing, and coming into it. And I still have the old photos like at home of this thing, and literally like coming into this thing, I remember like just pedaling so fast, like 44/16 gearing, and just, coming down a hill and spinning out, hitting the lip and taking off, and just being like, oh my God, I've gone way too fast, and throwing the bike like out in front of me, like the bike's like up in the air, kind of like over my head kind of thing, and then throwing it away as I landed like out into the flat ground, and just like bouncing and rolling away in like dirt and rocks and things. And my brother and like one of my other mates that were there that saw it were just like, oh, like mum and dad weren't home, it was in school holidays, and just thinking, like, are you all okay and everything, and just like getting up, I'm just like, I'm good, like I know I can make this and everything now, like like it's cool. And just going back to like the top of the run in, and then like pedaling in slower and everything, and just like controlling it and making it, and like that feeling of rolling away, and just like doing it. It's just like, man, like that was like a real big, moment for me. Just like that was like the first big thing that I ever did, and just being like, this is like what I want to keep doing. That's the feeling that I'm chasing. So yeah, so good.
Wow. And would that have been on a BMX?
Yeah, it was literally on just like a absolute piece of rubbish BMX that like I'd like just pieced together out of bits and pieces and things like that. And you can even see in the photos, like when I hit it the first time, like the forks bent and it just like raked out like chopper style. And I remember like literally like picking the bike up and like ramming it into the ground just to bend the forks back and stuff. It's just like, it's like I guess like back then just everything broke and bent and fell apart and stuff. Like just it's pretty funny.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So what age and what was that first mountain bike then? What got you from like the farm to riding pro free ride?
Yeah, for sure. So like first mountain bike was literally I would have been probably about 18, and I was still riding BMX lots. And then my younger brother actually got a mountain bike, and he was just like, he had ridden BMX a bit as well, and then he had seen mountain bike. I'd seen mountain bike stuff, and it didn't really like catch my eye or anything. But then he got a mountain bike, and like he wanted to race, try and race downhill and stuff. And so he did, and I went out to watch him at his first race, and just thought, like, I think it was something. I think I had a busted foot or something at the time, or something was up, and I couldn't ride. And I went out just to watch him and support him and everything, and went out to the race, and I was just like, oh, like, this is kind of cool, but most of these people suck and can't ride a bike very well. But I reckon I could do this I reckon I could have a pretty good crack at this, and I can do this good. And so, yeah, like I literally, just like, then I was like, I gotta get a bike. And so, yeah, like I was already working in a bike shop at the time, and I was like, okay, cool, I've got to get a mountain bike, and I'm gonna get a hardtail and get a fork on the front of it and stuff. And literally, just bought like a really like small 13-inch giant Sedona chromoly hardtail that was, just meant as a recreational bike, and put some forks in the front of it. It was originally a rigid with cantilever brakes, but I put like a fork into the front of it. I think it was just like an RST, really shitty dual crown sort of like fork, like polymer fork, like no oil dampening or anything like that. Still had cantilever brakes on it, and started riding that thing and just riding the wheels off of it and having fun. And that's where mountain bike started for me. So, yeah.
And then, so what got you picked up? Like, what got you to the big time? What got you to the big time of mountain biking? You must have done some stuff to get noticed.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, like there were, like I had that little hardtail for ages. It must have been probably like 12 months or so. And then I was like, I've really got to get a downhill bike, and so my first downhill bike was a giant ATX DH1, like the iconic red, yellow, purple. Yeah. Like the full Rob Warner. Yeah. It was like one of the very early ones. So that was my first downhill bike. And I think, like a pretty sort of like, like one of the, I used to break that thing all the time. Like the boxer forks in it. It had boxer 151s in it. And I guess like back then the RockShox people hated me because like the thing just like fell apart. And I remember it just like, it kept blowing seals and breaking and things going wrong with it, which was purely my fault. And kept getting sent back for warranty. And I like was so shitty with it at one point that I sent the fork back in a bike box full of rubbish just to annoy the people. just to let them know. I'm sorry, guys, that was pretty bad of me, but it was pretty funny looking back at it as well. But I remember being on that bike and racing at national championships in Canberra, and there was like a really like crazy course that they'd sort of set up, and Michael Ronning, Sean McCarroll, a couple of like the Aussie sort of World Cup guys were there, and there was this big rock sort of ledge or drop kind of thing that was sort of built into the track, and it was kind of a big deal for people just to even sort of like ride just off the edge of it. And a lot of people were sort of taking like a beeline sort of around it and stuff, and other guys would sort of like ride and just plonk off the rock kind of thing. And I was like, man, like I can come into this thing at a rate of knots and literally like pull up and boost off of it, and out there is a landing, or like what was potentially sort of like a landing. And like I guess like I just started hitting this thing, and like other people, I mean, John Waddell and Jared Rando, were there, like, like lots of the good guys and stuff. And like I just started hitting this thing and boosting it, and everyone sort of started talking about it kind of thing. And it was like a slalom course, and I was doing, like I guess like just like tricks and stuff, like off the jumps and bits and pieces and things, like just during practice and racing. And it was all pretty funny. So that was like, I guess like, like a start of it for me. But I think, probably, like the real sort of defining moment for me, in terms of getting picked up like for free ride and things like that, was at a Red Bull Ride event, which was in Jindabyne in New South Wales, here in Australia. Red Bull Ride was basically at the very sort of same time as what the very first Rampage was. Like those two events were sort of like together kind of thing.
Okay.
And Red Bull Ride was basically like this really sort of, pretty crazy, sort of steep, and varied sort of course that was set up just outside of Jindabyne in New South Wales. There were like a number of big drops and like things that were sort of built on the course, like seesaws or teeter-totters, and other sort of technical sort of log rides and like sections to sort of get through. But I guess like the crowning sort of piece of the course was like this really like big sort of scaffold type section that had been built at the bottom of the course kind of thing. And there were 3 tiers, and like I guess like all the best sort of riders were invited from all around the world, like all the Canadians and other sort of I guess like primarily the Canadians and the Americans are sort of there, and then a bunch of other Europeans, like Tarek Razuli was there. That was the first time I met Tarek. We became really good friends after there. But I guess, like Wade Simmons and Robbie Berta and Dave Watson, like all of the, even Thomas Vanderham was there. There were just like heaps of the, all the, the big names, boys, I guess. So, were assembled sort of there at this event and things like that. And then there were a couple of random Aussies that were sort of thrown into the mix as wild cards, and I happen to be one of them.
Enter Grant.
Yeah, that's it. Enter me. And at the time I was riding a Kona bike, a Kona Stab Primo, which was like, and Kona back in the early 2000s, like were the pinnacle of, I guess like, free ride mountain bikes and things like that. They made stuff that didn't break. It was durable, Mazzocchi forks and things like that. Just like they were, like a class ahead of everyone else and doing things that no one else was doing. And I had a Kona Stab Primo, but I had to pay for myself, bought myself and everything like that. And I was just like, I'm going to this event. It's just like, I've paid for this thing myself. Like no one's helping me out. I'm just going to black the stickers out on this thing. And so like, I just ran like black vinyl over the stickers and had, nothing else. And, I didn't have any sponsors or anything like that. Except for like, I guess like one of the local guys, like here, Zolly from a group, he used to make videos like VHS tapes, and he was called Volatile Visions, and he was like awesome dude, always helped me out and stuff. And so we had this kind of bit of a joke going around with like high vis, like council jackets, and we were like wearing council jackets to like go into places to ride where we shouldn't be, and just because you could get away with anything with a council jacket on. And so I rocked up to the event just with a pair of like black pants that Zolly had sort of sewn up for me, and this council jacket on. And everyone was looking like at these like 3 drops, and everyone was like, the big one was just like, it was way too big, like no one would be able to do it. Like that was the talk among like everyone kind of thing. It just like wasn't possible. And I was there like with my mates, Rowan and Dean, who are 2 brothers that were really good mates of mine and still are. And Rowan was actually a scaffolder, and it was pretty funny because he was standing on top of like the big sort of drop and everything. And Rowan knew that like I was like scared of heights and stuff, and he's like shaking the scaffold, and he's like climbing over the edge, like hanging upside down. He's just like, this thing hasn't been pinned properly, and it's just like it's like rickety. And we're like on this thing, it's like moving around, and I was just like, I can do this thing, and Rowan knew that I could do it, and I sort of did like the smaller sort of tier, and then I did the middle tier, and everyone was even surprised I did the middle tier. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do like the big one and everything.
Did you still have the high vis on?
Yeah, the high vis is still on. So yeah. High vis is still on.
Hilarious.
And so, like, and I guess like it was, with everyone sort of assembled there, Derek Westerlin was there. And Derek is the guy from Freeride Entertainment who put together New World Disorder series of DVDs and films. So, and Derek is like, he was the guy just like in terms of connections and things like that. Kona sponsored the films, Oakley sponsored the films, and I guess like, Red Bull were all involved and stuff. And I guess like all the, all these people are there, and then Derek sort of, came and spoke to me, and, like sort of said to him, look, I'm going to do this, like drop. And he was just like, whoa, like, like, who the fuck's this guy? Like, and he was just like, okay. And I was like, like you can film it if you want. Like, I'm going to do it like regardless. And
how big we talking?
I don't know. Like the drop was pretty sizable. Like it was probably sort of around, like maybe sort of 30 feet, sort of just like sheer sort of down kind of thing. Like it was big, like especially at the time. you know, with the bikes and stuff like that and everything. It was really big. And look, I mean, everyone was sort of looking at it like, you know, like, nah, I'm not doing it kind of thing. And yeah, so Derek is there. He's like, oh yeah, let's film it. And it's pretty funny because then the event organizers like all found out about it and everything. And it was like a really like cool vibe, like around, you know, they had music playing and everything. And then they saw me going up like to get onto the scaffold and everything with my bike. And then like they turned the music down and like there's all talk over the UHF radio. It's like, oh my God, this guy's going to do it. Like, you know, like everyone be ready, you know, like thinking someone's going to die. And it's pretty funny because on the opposing side of the hill, like there were people sort of stopped and parked, you know, like watching, because you weren't allowed to go into the event for spectators, but people were watching like from afar and everything like that. And it was like the whole hill shut down. Everything went quiet.
Wow.
And I sort of got up there and like Rowan and Dean were with me and it's just like, yeah, you got it. Like, you know, no worries. And so, yeah, it's pretty funny. Just like rolled up like to the edge and sort of like psyched up and everything like that. And yeah, just like rolled away, like straight off of it and just like landed really sweet, like really clean, sort of like hopped like 1 foot sort of slightly off the pedal and like rolled away. And yeah, was like super pumped about it and everything. And everyone was just like, whoa. And it was like, it's pretty cool. Like, you know, you can just hear like all the noise from around the hill, you know, I guess like, you know, from everyone's sort of point of view, it's like, it's cool, you know, someone's done it. And, you know, like just like the vibes were like high. You could hear people like, you know, from up on the other side of the hill where they were sort of watching, just like screaming. And yeah, everyone was pretty pumped. And yeah, just like, whoa. And yeah, like, I guess like after that, Derek, you know, sort of came up to me and he's just like, dude, you know, I want you to be in my film, you know, like, let's get you to Canada. Let's, you know, like make movies. Let's do this, you know, like, you know, Kona will help you straight away. Oakley will help you straight away. And yeah, I guess like that was really where it took off for me. So yeah.
That is nuts. So you went off that drop on so you had the sponsors' logos blacked out and you had a high vis on.
Yeah. I've got photos of it and everything like that. And yeah, I don't know, like it's pretty cool. So it was definitely, you know, like a really defining moment and stuff. And, you know, like, yeah, I think like in the end, I think Wade Simmons ended up doing it like in his run, and like in his competition sort of run, and then another one of the Aussie guys, Andrew Mills, also did it in his run as well, like in the end. So yeah, we're the only sort of three that did it kind of thing. So yeah, it was pretty sick. So yeah,
and did that get the Rampage guys interested as well?
Yeah. So that was like where everything sort of like ticked off for me. So yeah, the next 2 years in a row, like after that, like I went to Rampage and everything. So and yeah, like I guess like, you know, filming, you know, with Derek and like all the other guys, like for Neural Disorder series of films and stuff like that. So that was really where everything sort of like really kicked off for me, sort of in terms of like freeride mountain bike and doing what I,
because that's like where I would have first heard. That's where I first saw you on the New World Disorder and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So sure. I didn't know about, you know, the background, the sort of build up to you getting there. God, it's crazy how you've got to take such big risks before you're supported. That's scary.
Yeah. And I guess like things were so different sort of back then. It was just like I was doing all that sort of stuff and everything already, just like on my own, just for the sake of like doing it. And like I said, like my friend Zolly was sort of filming some of the stuff. But back then, not even everyone had cameras. You know, like I can remember doing like some of like the craziest stuff, you know, like literally, and, you know, we didn't even film it. You know, like after that whole thing sort of, you know, took place, like Derek sort of said to me, he's like, I'm going to, you know, because everything was shot on 16mm film back then. So it was just like, you know, not anyone could just like, you know, point a camera and film it or anything. You know, it had to be, you know, really specific and thought out, and, you know, you got to consider light and everything, you know, like it's a big undertaking kind of thing. And yeah, like I guess like Derek is like, you know, we're gonna get you, you know, like he's like, I want you to film, you know, stuff that you've been doing, you know, like here in Australia, and, you know, we'll get a camera guy out to you. And so we, you know, like had this plan to get this guy out and everything. And I was just like, you know, there was a few things that I had in my mind that, you know, I'm just like, you know, I've got to make sure this works before we film it kind of thing. And one of the things was we had this like quite a big sort of like, it's like almost like a kind of tabletop sort of hip jump, and you could pedal into this thing down a hill and you could hit it, and it was like around about sort of like 60 feet to sort of jump and stuff, and it was cool. But like I also, you know, had this idea in my head that like there was a landing, but then as you went down the landing, there was also like a road that you crossed, and then like another downslope. And so like I was looking at this thing, it's like, you know, like I can tow into this thing, and if I tow in fast enough, I can literally boost like the whole thing, like the original landing, and then over the road, and then down over to the next landing. And so it was like kind of funny because we did like tow in stuff back then. And so I used to have like a shitty little like magnet type speedo on my bike, so I could look at speeds I was hitting stuff. And we sort of doing like the whole, you know, lad science, like I think is like Brendan, you know, like Bearcloth calls it, and everything, just in terms of, okay, like if I'm hitting this thing at like, you know, 60 k's an hour, and, you know, like I'm jumping 60 feet, I'm going to need to tow in at about 100, you know, like to get this gap. Like it was around like 90 sort of like to make it kind of thing. And so I had a like mate with a motorbike, and this was in literally like a suburban area, like just there were houses close by and stuff. And we rocked up on a Sunday afternoon, you know, to test this thing. And yeah, like Zolly had something on and couldn't be there to film it. I'm just like, I've just got to do this to make sure it's right for when we actually film it, like, you know, like for your disorder. And so got one of my mates like with a moto, like out there and everything, and we did some practice run-ins and stuff and testing it, and I was like jumping a little bit further and further, and just like, okay, like, you know, like, and like my mate Tim, who was towing me, I was just like, dude, you know, like you've got to tow me into this thing. Literally, like we need to hit 95. Like we've got to hit 95 to do this. And so like he's towed me in, and it was funny because people were on the roofs of a house like that were close by, like watching, like as we were doing this, because it was Sunday afternoon, and they were literally on the roof with beers and just like, this is sick, like watching, you know, like this go down or whatever kind of thing. And so my mate Tim sort of pulled me in, and I'm like holding on, you know, like left hand on the bars, like right hand on the rope, just like, you know, towing into this thing. Pulled off the rope, like threw it, and just like hit this thing. I remember being up in the air and just like, okay, this is sick. It's going good. And just like, you know, like just leveling the bike. Like I was up there for so long, just like, you know, leveling the bike out, just like floating kind of thing. And it's like, okay, like I'm landing. And as I landed, like I was on my Stab Primo, monster tees on it, like big fork and everything. And I landed, and I was good. It just like landed, the bike compressed, and then everything just kept compressing. And literally both wheels on the bike exploded. Like it had Mavic 321 rims on it, and they broke into like 5 pieces each. Like big heavy Michelin tires and motorbike tubes. The rims broke into 5 pieces each. The bike just literally dug a trench into the ground. The brake rotors folded in half, and I just literally like ragdolled. I remember like ragdolling, like rolling and rolling and rolling, trying to stop. I couldn't stop. Like, you know, we were doing like, you know, 90 plus Ks an hour, and I kept rolling and just thinking like I'm trying to sort of stop, like with arms flailing and things. And I had like a Dainese body armor sort of suit on, and I just rolled. And I remember my poor friend Justin, who was like watching, and him come running down to me, and I remember the look on his face. He thought I was dead. And I just got back up, and I was just like he's like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I was just like, I'm fine. But I was just like, what happened to my bike? And and he had run past the bike and already seen what had happened to it. And he's like, it's broken. You know, it's like
it's quite broken.
Fell into pieces. And yeah, so then I had to borrow Justin's wheels the next weekend so we could like film stuff. So yeah.
Why was Justin lending you your wheels? You're the last person I'd have given any wheels to. No, I would have, no, you can't have my wheels.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I sadly, well, I don't know, probably sensibly didn't do that jump again, so I wouldn't wreck Justin's wheels or myself. So yeah.
Wow, that is insane. I can't believe you used to do some of that stuff and didn't film it. That is so,
I know.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I often talk to people about this. Like we used to do so much stuff where it just, you know, like it's not like now, like where everyone has a camera in their pocket. You know, it just everything was just, yeah, crazy. So
Yeah, I remember doing a scene for a film, and I had to go up on for a mountain bike film I did in the UK, and I had to go up on the ledge of a house and ride along this ledge. And it was back in like, I guess it was like 1997 or something. And I had a helmet on, but not a mountain bike helmet on. It was like a big, like cannonball helmet, like a motorcycle helmet. And it had a camera on the side of it, but like, like a movie camera.
Yeah,
It was massive. It was absolutely massive. And I could see like the lens like next to my head. And then it had like a curly, stretchy cord that went off of the camera to a guy who had to run along next to me.
Oh my God, yes.
To start and stop the camera, because they were using film. They were using like really expensive film, and they wanted to use as little of it as they could. So I had to ride up on, but I had to kind of ride with my head kind of cocked over because it was so heavy. I couldn't. Yeah, so you forget, right? You just forget. Like now it's so easy to film. I mean,
I know. I
mean, we're not making it particularly easy today.
Exactly. I remember the same thing. We used to, like, with the 16mm film for, like, filming for New World Disorder stuff, we would use a Gazap camera. So it's, like, literally, like, it's an old World War II, aircraft, like film type camera. And, you would have, the camera on one side, battery on the other, and just, like, shitty cannonball helmet, and you'd wear a beanie underneath it. I remember my first day riding in Whistler Mountain Bike Park was filming helmet cam stuff for Richie Schley. And just being like, I'll run the helmet. I don't mind. Like, that's cool. And like, hitting crabapple hits like with that helmet that weigh.
No way.
The best part of like 12 to 15 kilos on your head is like,
You must have been shorter by the end of the day. You literally must have got
100% you were shorter. Yeah, that's it exactly. So
that's some big jumps to be hitting with one of those helmets. That's too big. That is too big.
We used to always like laugh and talk about that. It was kind of like a bit of a thing between the riders, like with like, I mean, you had to be careful, and calculated with what you could hit because you couldn't damage like the camera either or anything like that. But it was kind of like a bit of a thing with, like what we could actually, like shoot on helmet cam back then, with how big that you could go or what you could actually do kind of thing. Because it was really hard to achieve that, but like, I mean, now it's easy, right? So yeah,
it's different times. So you were riding with some of the you just casually dropped Richie Schley in there in the. I noticed that how you name dropped, but that like you were riding with some of the real like what are the Hall of Famers now.
Yeah, look, I feel pretty special to have, been able to ride and I think, like what you would really kind of like call like, like the, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of funny like that, but like, it was a golden age, like a defining era for freeride mountain bike for sure. It was where everything was really, coming together. And I think, there's lots of people that, like sometimes I post onto socials, just like some old sort of stuff like from New World Disorder and bits and pieces like that. And there's lots of, like younger generation riders that see that and just like, man, this is sick. And, like appreciate it and see it for what it is kind of thing. And look, I guess like that's the sort of stuff that happens like as time always progresses, and things like that. But the thing is, there's definitely like a lot about that era that I really like. And like, I mean, things are different now, it's like that whole thing when people talk about, like things like Rampage, with what Rampage is now compared to what it was for back when, like I was there and in those, like those early years and stuff like that kind of thing. I don't know, like it's just like back then, I think there's lots about it that I really liked just in terms of it was just, I don't know, like I think these days there's like lots of stuff that kind of, like tricks and things like that, kind of get in the way of like the core of like what like what to me and what I think like a lot of other people see free ride mountain bike or just mountain bike in general as like I think there's just something so beautiful about seeing like someone just riding and like riding and ripping through a piece of natural terrain like or sculpting and just like kind of loosely defining or helping the way to get through, but I guess like, yeah, some of the stuff when, I see Rampage now, it's just like, it's a slope style course, like built down the side of the hill, which is still cool. Like it has its place and things like that. But, I love sort of seeing, some of the riders, riding like raw and, like tech sort of stuff and, things like that at Rampage to me. And I think, a lot of people sort of see that same sort of thing. That's, there's a real place for that still, and it's maybe missed.
Yeah. Do you think Rampage has gone too far?
Yeah, I think like that's an interesting one, because you'll never stop sort of people from doing, what they're going to do, or anything like that. And the reality is, like, I mean, with what we do, people do get hurt and things like that. But I think with Rampage, like one of the things, like for viewers sort of watching at home, there's no way to put into words or feelings, like the actual, perspective or the reality of being on top of those mesas, like out in the desert, and just, the vastness, as well as the consequence of what actually comes, with riding there as well. Just little things like, the wind out there, the wind is something that, I mean, it's always talked about and things like that, but unless you're a rider and riding there, it's just so hard to sort of, like actually convey, like the challenge of that.
What does it feel like? What does it feel like when you're at the top? I mean, I haven't really got a reference in my riding career that would even give me a chance of understanding what Rampage must feel like. But what does it feel like?
Yeah, for me, being at the top of Rampage, literally, whether you're in practice or whether you're, like about to drop your run and things like that, like it's scary, like and being scared is a good thing, because being scared is what keeps you safe as well. And it's normal, it's normal to feel it, but it's harnessing it and then, trying to put down a run and things like that. And look, I mean, I can remember, like back when I was there, like we used to literally have the heli, like an actual heli that would be, buzzing around and following you down. And there's a photo that I have from, I think it was the first year that I was there. And literally, like, there's a heli that's like, it would not be sort of like, like 50 feet above my head as I'm dropping off, like a really sort of steep face, like down into, like a really techie sort of section. And just like the wash of a heli, like I'm sure a lot of people, understand or, have felt like the wash of like, what a heli is like with the blades sort of spinning around and the turbulence that it creates. Like, I mean, the noise, it's like, it's really, it's really challenging. And
it's noticeable.
I think, oh yeah, it is. Yeah. And I think it's just like, it's one of those things where it's always well filmed and put together and everything like that. But there's just nothing truly like actually being out there and feeling how scary it is just to literally sort of stand, like on top of, those mesas and just look to your left and look to your right and, realize that if you fell down there, there's no coming back. So, yeah. And yeah, like, I mean, I think it is like kind of scary, just like in terms of, like potentially, like let's hope not, but like, I mean, I would hate to see someone, like actually, die at that event or anything like that. But it is.
It's a really hard one to get your head around, right? Because we all want to, like you said, though, I mean, the important bit about Rampage and the riders and the people like yourself is that that's who you are. There's no one, that's who you are. And like, you literally did it with no one there and no cameras running. You did it for your own enjoyment. And, you either are one of those people or you're not. And if you are, you got to do it. You got to, it's in your blood, if you like, and you got to send it. That's the type of person you are. And there may as well be an event celebrating it, like you're definitely safer trying those things at Rampage than trying them on your own mountain where no one's there watching.
Yeah, well and truly. I think it's the sort of thing where, like I say, people are going to do it regardless. People will do it regardless. But it's honestly one of those things where, I mean, there's a lot to sort of take in around it. With maybe, could it be staged? Better? Could it be judged better? Could it be? Yeah, I don't know. It's not
It could be judged better. It could definitely be judged better, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Can of worms. It's a real can of worms.
It really is a can of worms. But like you say, like Adolf had that big crash this year, and obviously he's got, a road ahead of him getting over that injury and coming to terms with that injury. But it wasn't his first double backflip. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't even it was a massive double backflip and on a huge obstacle. But double backflips in any scenario are, critically dangerous. So, that guy, that's just who that guy is, and we get to see them do these things that are, well, they are astonishing. They just, these days, it doesn't even look real. Because like you say, they're adding in tricks that are just, well, they're crazy on their own, but then you put them on that hill, in that wind, on that terrain, under that pressure
as well. Yeah, correct.
It's just, it's the ultimate moment in mountain biking. I guess it sounds like to me, though, you must be a massive fan of hardline.
Yeah, look, hardline I think is super cool as well. I don't know, like I think that sort of stuff is pretty cool, like seeing guys, both racing as well as tackling, like some of the tech features and stuff like that, and with what everyone sort of brings to the table and things, with that. And I think, one of the ones with that like I really have enjoyed sort of seeing at hardline is Dan Booker. Dan is an amazing, an amazing guy to watch on a bike. Like he's just, I guess just one of those people where you just like, watch ride a bike and it's just like, like it's just effortless. And, some of the things that he sees and does and things, and, having had, the chance to sort of spend time with him and ride with him, like at Medina where one of the hardlines is, and seeing some of the stuff that he's done there and things, it's just like, it's pretty cool. But like, I think, it's definitely, it's pretty fun to sort of see that sort of stuff, like, like put in front of people and things like that. And I think, that format is something that will, kind of like push on through. And it's kind of cool that, like, yes, there's racing and stuff like that, and people that want to win it, but there's also people that are, just like pretty stoked to be there and, just like
just get down it.
Yeah. And like even like, Remy Morton is another one as well. Like, Remy did hardline, the other year, and literally did it like on his, like his rad little bike that he has set up with a 24 by 3 inch at a rear wheel on it and no chain. No chain. It's just like, it's so hard to comprehend, like how someone can literally hit like all of those features, and ride chainless and with as much style and grace, as what he does. But like, it's just like, it's cool. And like, he's never going to win the event or anything like that, but it's just like literally like seeing him and watching him on a bike. He's again like someone that's just like, really enjoyable to watch. There's lots of good guys, to watch now. It's just like, it's just some where you just like look at and just like, that's how, like you think it feels for you, or or you just like, you like to sort of see it, like feel that same sort of way, I guess, kind of thing. So it's cool.
No, it's amazing I love it when you see a rider. I don't know, you just know when you're watching literally genius on a bike.
Brandon Semenuk.
I mean, well, that guy is unbelievable. But I've sort of seen it a few times over the years where I've watched a rider and just thought, oh my God, he's doing something, or something else is happening in his head to what's happening in my head when I ride. Like
and like it's just like maybe a tangent and things like that as well. But like for me, I think with what I get to do now, like with an adaptive mountain bike, is like when I ride my Bowhead RX, like I really want to make it look cool. Like I want to make it, look graceful, look fluid, that type of thing. And like that bike allows me to do it. Like it's wicked to have that tool to do it. But I want people to see, what I do with that bike and look at it and go, I don't want them to look at me and go like, oh, that's cool, he's trying, or he's, like he's out there like having a go, like it's cute that he, still
good
gets to
old
have
Grant.
a crack. Yeah, like I want people to look at like what people can do on an adaptive mountain bike and just be like, that's wicked, like that's amazing, or like, man, like I wouldn't hit that, like, and I ride a normal bike, and I think, like that's a cool thing for me. I mean, I know I'm going a little bit of tangent here or whatever, but like I think a big thing for me, it's just like with what we get to do with the adaptive mountain bikes and things, it's not just like a token, like, oh cool, like he's, like someone's out there, and just, able to still have, like sort of a go or whatever, it's just like, on an adaptive bike these days, like you can ride like amazing stuff, like if you put the work and you put the time and you can be good at it, you can ride technical things, you can ride things fast, don't need to be a handbrake on your mates and stuff like that. It's fun to have mates around to enjoy it with you and things. But I think for me, like that's like a really big thing when I'm riding my bowhead bike now. I want to make it look good, I want to make it look cool.
You make it look good. You make it look good better than, well, other than that Cole Bernier guy, you make it look really, really great. Better than great. Great was a silly word to say there. You make it look amazing. Really fluid, super smooth. But I get, actually, your tangent's great because, you're riding adaptive mountain bikes now. We were talking about Rampage, but if my research is right, it might not be. You were training for Rampage, right? When you had the worst day ever. Is that right?
I did, yeah. So I guess
tell me about the day. Tell me about the day. Like, where did that day start? And what happened?
Yeah, so I guess for me, I had a pretty significant accident back in 2011, where I sustained a spinal cord injury, and I guess like for me, it was really kind of just like a lot of other days where I'd built a really big jump like out in the forest, and was just like I guess like putting together bits and pieces, and like I guess with the view, like I kind of had like I guess like from Todd, who's the event organizer with Rampage and things, just I hadn't been for a few years. It's like literally like I want to come back, and I've still been doing stuff, and like I have points to prove, or just like I want to be part of it kind of thing, like let's do it. And so there was just like a case of like, okay, like put something together for us so we can see, and like there's a good chance you like can have that spot or whatever kind of thing. And so look, I was just like it may not have ever happened or anything like that, but that was something in the back of my head. And part of this is like we'd shot like a bunch of like really cool stuff that I'd been sort of riding and building and whatever else. And like I guess there was this jump that I had built like a big road gap, nothing like I hadn't sort of done already before or anything. And like I guess coming into it, it's like I guess you have to be confident in what you're doing, visualizing it, seeing it in your head, that type of thing. And to me it was all right, and I came into this jump like a really big sort of road gap or step down sort of over a road kind of thing, and just overshot it, just and I remember being in the air just like, okay, like I've just kind of gone a bit too fast, like it'll be sweet, just like put it down, landed. And as I landed, just like transitioned out of the landing, and as I came down to sort of more flatter ground, just the bike basically sort of like rebounded sort of like pretty hard and then bucked me off, just got high-sided and thrown to the side and hit the ground really hard. And I actually landed on my side, and I was like knocked out. Just like remember sort of coming to and just, being like, okay, cool, like like that was a big hit, but like I'll just go a bit slower next time. And literally just like went to move, and I couldn't move. I was just like, oh, okay, like this is not good. So and I guess that was a pretty bad day. But I guess like it's funny because like when you say about like the worst day ever, it was a far from great day or anything like that. But I've had plenty of bad days, and like I guess like bad things happen, sadly, like all the time. And I guess like everyone deals with, like with bad things that are happening. And sometimes, they're bigger and sort of harder to sort of overcome than others. But it's kind of crazy as well, because like I remember bits about that day, but like I don't remember, it's not something that's like really, like burnt into my memory in a bad way or anything like that. But when I think about things and put things in perspective, like I can remember, so many of the good days and the amazing days that I've had. And when I sort of think about bad days, it's just like, I don't really remember them that much, but I can remember all the really vivid and clear details of good days, and just like things that have happened and, memories that I've made and collected and things like that. But yeah, for bad days, it's just like they don't always sort of stick in my head. It's just like they're there, but like what do? You just like, you just got to kind of roll with it. There's no point being stale, no point being sad about things. Like, things happen. Just like you've got two choices. You can either deal with it and move on, like, or you can be a sad sack about it, basically. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that word you said. There's no point being stale about it.
Yeah,
that's quite a good term. Yeah, like because almost if you dwell on something, that is what happens, isn't it? Because you're like stale bread. You're kind of like you got no hope.
Yeah.
But if you've got to have a fresh thought and a fresh outlook, or at least keep reminding yourself to do that.
Yeah.
Do you think you've had do you think you've had an even worse day than that day?
I don't know. Like, I guess like, like
I don't want to get stuck on the worst day thing, but I was just thinking maybe there can be a worse day than, well, there are, aren't there? Because we have days where we hear bad news about people we love, and there, in my experience, have been much worse days than the day I had my accident. So there are worse days.
Yeah. I think you're so right with that. I think, like for me, like it's like, and just the same as you, like sustaining a spinal cord injury, it's just like, okay, like this is on me, like it's just, like it's something that I have to deal with. And I think it was significantly harder for, for people around me, to deal with than what it was for me, kind of thing. Like it's certainly, like it's challenging and everything like that. But I think, like as you sort of say, it's just like when I hear of, like bad things happening, to good people or other, people that are around me or close and things like that, something that I don't have any control over, I think, that is probably even more, like tougher for me than, what it is for dealing with something with myself. So I don't know. I guess like that's, I care for people and stuff like that, and just, always want to help people. And, I guess like if it's, something that I've done or whatever, or, like something that's happened to me, it's just like, it's up to me to deal with it is the way I sort of see it. But yeah, it is hard for others around for sure. And like I said, I think, my accident was definitely, like really difficult for like my friends, my family, all that sort of stuff. Like, just, and something that's what I've
struggled with the most in my journey through that whole experience, is watching what it does to other people's lives and how it's because your accident doesn't just happen to you, does it? It happens to everyone around you, because it's such a dramatic change that it changes how, well, anyone's plans they were making to have you in their life or you be part of their life is suddenly a very different proposition, so it's hard to watch that stuff.
It's an interesting thing as well, because like I just sort of think, it's a sort of thing where like I have, like two kids, that I love lots or whatever. And I guess like, I never, like set out to hurt myself or anything like that, or, change the way sort of things are or anything, but it happened. And, like, I mean, like life could be different, but like by the same token, it's just like, the way I live my life now, like I really do, everything that I did before, and even more. And it's funny, like I can remember sort of like, especially early on, when my kids were young and stuff like that, just, being at a park or a playground and things, and, and looking around and, seeing, what other parents, like able-bodied parents were doing, like with their kids, and, I guess like their lack of engagement with their kids and things. And, with what I was doing, and just looking around and just being like, you know what, like, like these people have no excuse, and they're actually doing, like far less like with their lives, and people that really matter to them, than what I am. And it's just like, I don't know, I laugh, like I just think it's funny. And like some people, just like, it's like funny, people come up to you like, oh, like, oh, you okay, or what happened to you? And it's like, I'm fine, like, what happened to you? Yeah, like, yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Think, like,
I mean, everyone deals with all these things really differently. I tell you what, I've got to get to this. I've been looking forward to asking you about it, because you handled everything so amazingly well, and people will say that to me. I guess from the outside, everyone looks like they're handling everything really well, but you did have something of a crisis, because somehow you went from one of the coolest free riders on the planet to the most ridiculous lycra wearing weirdo I have ever seen. How did you swallow the lycra? I mean, I can't. I mean, you must. I mean, do any of those guys from the free riding thing still talk to you? Do they?
No, they don't. No, look,
do they ignore you now?
Yeah, they do. No, for me, I guess like when I was hurt and everything like that, there was no real option like to go back to, like riding a mountain bike, or not easily or anything like that.
No, there was none.
I wanted to be fit. I wanted to be active. I wanted to be around bikes and things. And yeah, at the time, the really good people from Trek Australia, like were helping me out with bits and pieces. And as soon as like my accident happened, they're just like, we need to get you a bike. And so like, they're just like, what about we get you like, like a road hand bike? And I was like, yep, like cool, like let's do it. I had ridden a road bike, like a little bit sort of like beforehand or whatever, just to be able to like, for fitness and getting to work and stuff. And I was like, cool, like let's do it. And so they got me a bike, which is beautiful of them, just like particularly, yeah, like I guess like a bunch of the older sort of Trek guys there, like from back then, like Gareth and Jason and Andrew, just like, like with such, like amazing, just amazing guys, and like really good friends and stuff. And it was pretty cool. Like, they got me this custom painted hand bike and everything. And then I was just like, cool, like, I'm actually into this. Like, I'm going to give this a go. And just like, I reckon that like I can get good at this kind of thing. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like I had, no other outlet for bikes. And so that was really like what it was. And yeah, I guess like I was pretty shit at it first. And I remember literally
it's hard, man. It's so
it is.
hard.
Like it's like so hard. And like I was like doing lots in the gym and stuff sort of before I got my bike. And it's just like I'm pretty fit and pretty strong, like I'm good, like it'll be hard, but we'll be fine. And just sort of went out on the first ride, like left from the bike shop, and it's like, okay, like let's go, to the top of basically Mount Lofty, the biggest sort of hill here in Adelaide, and then we'll just blast back down. And literally, like I was good for probably like 5Ks, and then I was like, this is pretty freaking hard. So started going up difficult. Like climbing up the hill, and I was like really gassed. Like my mates like grabbed a piece of like vine off of the side of the road and like towed me with it just so we could get to the top of the hill to ride down. And like ripping down a few corners and everything and feeling good. It's like, I can ride this thing pretty fast down a hill. It's sick. And then rolled it and put it into the side of a cliff on the road kind of thing.
I mean, they're devilish fast down a hill though, aren't they? Those road bikes are incredible. Yeah. But I wouldn't want to roll one. Did you roll it? That's horrible.
Yeah,
it's so low to the ground.
I've tipped them over a few times. It happens, and it's not a good idea. So, but and again, like not a good day, but still, you got through. So, but I don't know. Like I worked pretty hard at it for quite a while, and like I mean, I still, I enjoy doing it now as well. But I think part of it that I actually enjoy is just because it's like it's so different and so not expected. Like from a lot of people, that like it's kind of cool that I can actually do that, and and still like actually do pretty well at it, and and I don't know, like it's just like it's different, like it's really different and stuff. But I mean, I would take riding my mountain bike any day of the week over it and stuff. But it is kind of fun and interesting to do, Like, I mean, I've been to a Paralympics.
And a full disclosure, I did try hand biking straight after my accident, just like you. I put on the Lycra. I just never got any good at it.
It's like I think it is really humbling. Like, it's really humbling.
Oh boy, yeah.
And like, I guess to go from living a life of using your legs to then a life of, needing to use your arms and, to power a bike and things like that. And look, I mean, to be good, like, you've got to be really good. Like, I mean, for a time trial that we, race and things like that, like, to win, you've really got to, be, like, averaging sort of, like 45 Ks an hour plus. Like, it's.
So when you're racing a time trial, you're doing, what was your average time, do you think?
Yeah, so racing, like, I guess, like, to win like a time trial these days in my class, like on a road hand bike, like, you really are going to be averaging like 45 Ks an hour.
That is nuts.
Above or a little bit below, depending on the course. Like, it's brutally fast. Like, guys, it's so strong. So yeah,
I remember when I first started trying road hand cycling, I went out and did about 2 hours on the bike. And I come back and my little computer thing I'd put on there told me I'd averaged 19 kilometers an hour. And I remember chatting to one of the top racers at the time, because I was trying to find out how good I was. And and he said to me, so what was your average, when you were out on your ride? And I said, about 19. And he was like, wow, that's really good. That's really good. And I was like, yeah. I was like, what are you? And he said, about 21. And I was like, really? And he went, I was like, hang on a second, 21 what? And he was like, miles per hour.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm really slow. It's tough.
It's hard. Like, it's really hard work. And there's like so much of it where it's just like, you've really got to pour like hours of your life into it. It's challenging for sure. Yeah.
What was it like being on there? Because you've done you've been on the Paralympic cycle, with like a build up to a, Paralympics. What was that? What's that like? I mean, how different is that to Rampage? Can you imagine? Like, you've been through the pressure and stress of Rampage and the pressure and stress of the Paralympics. That's incredible.
Yeah. I guess like a big thing with Paralympics is, like, it always comes down to like politics and selection and things like that. Like, it's really challenging, like, and difficult. Like, I went to the Tokyo Games, and like, I mean, I placed 6th there. Like, I just didn't do anywhere near as well as like I had hoped or, anticipated. There's a lot around that. Like, we missed nearly 2 years of racing with COVID and stuff. Like, it was a really weird time, as we all know. Like, what, that whole 2019 to 2021 sort of window really was. It was definitely weird. But like, I guess like more recently with the Paris Games, like, I was pretty unlucky, and I feel, pretty shortchanged, by our own system here.
Really?
To miss out on selection. Yeah. And look, I mean, there's, I don't know, like, it can kind of sound funny because like a lot of people sort of say that and things. But like, I feel that we were really, pretty let down by our own system, which is sort of frustrating, just, like from, I guess like, not having opportunities to race, and then, like, not actually being picked to race, when other people were put ahead of us that necessarily, or perhaps like shouldn't have been instead. Again, like, it's the politics of the game and things like that. And, it's done now. There's nothing you can do about it or anything like that. But like, I mean, my partner, she races like on the road and track with paracycling as well. And so, like, I guess like, seeing her go to, the games in Paris and, and win a gold medal and not be there and not part of the team, like, is a tough one to sort of swallow, when, like, you want to be there and sharing the experience, like, and racing and doing well as well, kind of thing. So,
And she won a gold medal.
Yeah, she's won lots of gold medals. So,
wow, that's nuts.
She's, she won a gold and a silver in Tokyo, and then won another gold medal, backing up a gold medal from Tokyo again in Paris. So it's a tough gig to sort of, be at the top and stay at the top kind of thing.
She sounds like a horrible overachiever.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. We were laughing like literally only the other week. We were both away at the same time, and she'd been to track world championships in Rio, and literally she came home with 3 gold medals and a bronze medal. And a new world record, and I came home from the Sea Otter Mountain Bike Festival with a 2nd place. And we laughed like when we both got back home, and I said to her, I was like, oh, now look, like I'm not sure, like if you would like to or not, but like if you would like to see what a 2nd place, like medal from Sea Otter looks like, like you can have a look, you can actually have a hold, like I mean I know you've got like 3 world championship medals, but if you wanted to see what a 2nd place medal from Sea Otter looks like, I'm happy for you to have a little hold. Just please don't drop it or damage it.
I'm literally crying here. So funny. I tell you what, though, to me, a 2nd at Sea Otter actually is really impressive. I'm actually blown away, genuinely.
We actually had we actually had a really good time at Sea Otter. We had it was the first time Sea Otter has been held in Australia, and I'm good at tangenting here again, but it's like a cool thing to talk about because there were about like 25 people that were registered to race, and we raced a really cool format that the event organisers call Superflow. So 4 courses, like 4, like slightly different sort of like stages to sort of race on. Yeah. You can do as many laps as you want, and then your best time counts. So it's like super fun, like you can just go out with mates and things like that. Just literally, like blast laps, and you can see your timing live. So
that's awesome.
If you don't have, like I guess like, time that you're happy with, you can go back and go again. You can ride with mates. You can just do like a party lap. You can do whatever you want. It's awesome. So.
Yeah, that's like that thing you do at FOD. Is that a similar sort of thing? You've done them races? Like yeah, enduro. You just keep lapping it. Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, they call it Superflow, which is like it's such a great format because it's like it's fun, it's easy, and just, like everyone actually just gets to ride their bike lots, which I think is such a great format for racing. So, yeah, it's cool.
What do you think of that? I tell you what, I really love the look of it is do you like is it hard enduro? What's the MTB version of hard enduro? Is it called hard enduro? Hard MTB. It was easy. The clue was in there.
I have seen some of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that looks good. I like that.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I think more, just like different sort of things. Riding is awesome. Like whatever people want to do, just like riding bikes is wicked. Whether it's, I don't know, like whatever people want to do. I think like that's the sort of thing. Is just that's like a big part of what I love about adaptive mountain bikes. Is people can do so much with them and just have so much fun. And bikes are wicked, and bikes are for everyone. So yeah.
Let's talk a bit about what you do with adaptive bikes now, because you obviously like, I mean, genuinely, you're like one of the leading lights in terms of like what's possible on an adaptive bike for sure. So
Thank you.
Tick that box. But you're also doing an awful lot and working really hard in Australia about getting people. Well, you literally are getting people out on adaptive bikes and exposing them to what's possible through adaptive bikes. Obviously, that's a big part of what I'm trying to, promote through Rideable Now, is just trying to get people to understand what is possible now for someone with a disability in terms of riding in the great outdoors, because we're at this really great moment in mountain bike technology meeting adaptive bike development, and it just transforming the capabilities of the bikes. And I mean, you must be seeing that dawning moment for people every day.
For sure. Yeah. Look, I mean, definitely. I mean, what I really do, like day to day now is I work for a business called Push Mobility here.
Yeah. So carry on, Push Mobility.
Yeah. So I guess day to day now, I work for a group called Push Mobility. Push is a small independent sort of disability equipment supplier here in Australia. we're owned and I guess like primarily staffed by people living with disability. So the owner of Push is Shane Highhorick. Shane started Push a little bit over 10 years ago after he sustained a spinal cord injury, and just purely out of the need for, like, I guess, like seeing, you know, like how bad his own experience was in terms of getting his first wheelchair. And I guess, you know, like I'm so lucky now, like in terms of what I get to do, you know, I help people, you know, and I guess like like a huge part of what we actually do is primarily the bowhead adaptive mountain bikes. And I guess getting those to people, I mean, we do other like manual wheelchairs for day-to-day use and things like that. But I guess, I mean, the most enjoyable part, is helping people. But I mean, the adaptive mountain bike sort of side of things with bowhead, you know, is huge. I mean, they have a new wheelchair now, which is kind of cool as well, that we'll be able to start helping people with and stuff. But yeah, I guess like for me, I just love getting around people. I love sharing the joy of bikes. And I think, you know, like lots of people ask me about, oh, like, what do you like most, you know, like about, you know, like your bowhead adaptive mountain bike or whatever, you know, like, is it jumping it, is it cornering it, or is it, you know, like whatever. And, you know, for me, the biggest love that I have of the bike is sharing the joy of that bike with others. Like I love getting, you know, like someone into the bike who's maybe lost bikes, like through spinal cord injury accident or something like that. But sharing it with someone, you know, who's never imagined that they could maybe even ride a bike, you know, like is such, you know, like a huge thing.
Yeah.
And I really just love like getting around people and sharing that stoke and the joy of bikes, you know, like, and I think, you know, like, I don't know, I'm always really lucky that like when we go riding, you know, in different places and things like that, you know, there's a lot of people, just like able-bodied people or whatever, just like, oh, you know, like, can I come for a lap with you? And it's just like, oh yeah, like, you know, like, please, like, and just making it a good time, you know, like making it fun. And there's just always, you know, it's like, it's eye-opening for people when, you know, people haven't had the chance to ride with you before or anything like that. And then they get to, and they're just like, oh my God, like, you know, like you make that look, you know, like so fun. And like, that was the most fun, you know, that I've had, just like, you know, like, you know, and they're just like, they're surprised at like what the bike can do, but just like, you know, how much fun that it is. And it's just that thing of like, I know you feel it too. It's like for you, Martyn, it's just like that stoke of sharing bikes with people and how bloody good they are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things I get so excited when I think about it is just the moment when someone gets on one of those bikes and realizes what you can almost see, these like, the thoughts of these days ahead that suddenly just clicked into their mind that they never thought they'd have. And it really is that dramatic. You know, it's that massive that suddenly a future appears in front of them that just didn't exist in their mind.
Yeah.
Particularly for people who didn't even ride mountain bikes. They're suddenly like, what? I could go where? And there's a community like that, you know, just an amazing community that I think it's one of the hidden treats of mountain biking is the adaptive mountain bike community is so supportive. It's so cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I just get so it really gets to me when I think about it, because it really is a profound change it can make in someone's life. And when you've experienced it yourself, you understand what it means to someone else when they discover it and realize it. And then, you know, it's not easy to do. It's expensive, and you know, it's logistics, but you know, the payoff is just so huge, and I love that. And you know,
it is
more power to people like yourself who make it possible.
Yeah, look, I mean, you know, a big part of our process is, you know, like for people getting bikes here is like a lot of people, you know, are fortunate enough to get them through, you know, a funding body and things like that. And part of that process is, you know, for people to go out and trial the bike. You know, they have to, you know, trial the bike, you know, check that they, you know, are actually going to enjoy it and prove that they can use it safely and successfully and things like that. But for us, like part of that process, you know, like we take people out and like give them an experience. And it's just like, it's like that whole thing of like pinch yourself moments, just in terms of, you know, like this is my job, you know, this is like what I do, you know, like to make people's lives better. And just, you know, it's the most amazing thing, I mean, it happens all the time, but I mean, I can think of, so many different ones and things that I've been through. And I can remember one guy with a bowhead reach that we were trialing, and he is double amputee, and not been able to ride a bike for probably 10 to 15 years, that type of thing. And being with him, out riding, and we're at like a little BMX track and stuff like that, close by, and literally, there with his occupational therapist and like one of our other new a staff member that was new with us at the time and things. And just explaining to him how the bike worked and everything like that. And he was getting through a couple of sections, and there was like a double jump on the track, which is actually like pretty sort of sizable. And he was sort of getting used to like how the throttle works and things. And I was explaining it to him, just sort of riding along with him. He's come up to this double, and he's just sort of kind of like reefed on the throttle, just like right at the right moment, and launched this double and literally like gapped this double. It was sizable as well. And his occupational therapist was literally, we came back to her, and she was like this mix of emotions where she was literally crying in happiness that like this guy had just had this like amazing experience, but she's just like, please don't do that again. I don't want to see you crash or anything like that. And I was just like, yeah, probably a good idea to settle it down a bit, Rubes, but that was pretty sick as well.
Yeah, so. Calm down a bit. Did he ride beforehand, or was that his like?
he was a mountain biker beforehand, and had an accident, lost his legs, and it was just like him getting back to the bike and stuff. And another guy that I know that now has an RX, he lives like quite close by to me, and taking him out like for his trial, and taking him into like a local like national park that was like really close to where we both live, and taking him to the top of the hill just so he could literally see the view out over the city. And it's just like, man, it's just like, I live like right here, but I've never been able to like see this, it's just like, it's rad. This is just the beginning, of like what's possible. And, just getting people into bikes is just, the most powerful thing. And just like, it's good for fitness. It's good for, it's good for health, it's just good for the mind and good for the soul. It's just, bikes, they're bloody good.
Yeah. That's the thing I like most on my bike, is going like climbing up to somewhere. Like I don't spend most of my time trying to find the big fast downhills and jumps. I spend more time trying to find really
adventure,
doable, but like adventures. It's almost go out on the equivalent of like a trek, really, rather than a flat out mountain bike. And I love climbing up a hill, like where the grip's quite difficult, and it's just steep enough where you're getting a few wheel spins, and you're climbing up, and you almost get that moment of like, this is insane. Like what the technology that is making me move up this hill is unbelievable. Because literally when we had our accidents, like I was 2013, but you were even earlier. At that point, that just isn't that long ago. And it was not even in the realms of possibility.
Yeah.
And
so that's that's a big thing, is like, like my friend and colleague that like works with me, Renee, she was hurt even earlier, before us. And, like this is the sort of thing that we talk about. It's just like we sat on the sidelines, literally like for so long, and now it's just like there's this gift, that is there.
Yeah.
And, like I guess like, like just, like such huge thanks to Christian, like Christian Bagg from, the inventor of the bowhead bike, like for making this wonderful thing and changing so many people's lives. And when I talk to Christian about it, it's just, like I think he's just busy, with lots of stuff, but like I don't, I tell him that he actually needs to, like stop, and actually think, like about this gift that he's actually given to so many people, and that so many more people are actually, like still, like yet to sort of, like behold and, and understand. But it's such a beautiful thing, it really, really is.
100%. I mean, and something I've heard Christian say actually is that, he's the founder and the original designer of the bowhead reach. And But one of the things he really loves is that bike has now pushed other brands to really rethink about how they make an adaptive bike. And that's just fantastic for all of us, so it's like, it's not even like a one brand thing. It's more just like the movement itself, the actual discipline of adaptive riding just has grown. I think there's sort of exponential growth ahead of it, because many people who are just not mountain bikers right now, and they don't need to turn into mountain bikers to use these bikes. They can just be green laning or just getting out in the fresh air, because these bikes can just take you anywhere, and it's like unlocking the world again. It's such a fantastic thing.
Yeah, look, I mean, it is, and it's just, I think it's like one of those things where, I mean, I think as well, like the more involvement that there is from other, like, I guess, like groups and companies within the bike industry. I know you have a great relationship, with the guys at Hope, and, like seeing their interest and, like, I guess, like, like wanting to be involved, like, and help around it. And look, I mean, I know, like I have great support from the guys at SRAM and things like that. And even, another guy, Jeremiah, who does the Paddy Melon steering dampeners, which are, I mean, Jeremiah, was basically the brains behind, or the starter sort of behind the whole black box program with SRAM, and he's now doing steering dampers. And Jeremiah is like super keen, to be involved to try and help with creating a steering damper for the bikes and things like that. It's just seeing, the interest from, like parties, like outside of, and I guess like involved within the greater sort of bike industry, wanting to be involved, wanting to help make this experience sort of better, is just, again, that whole collective community, coming together to do, really good things, to make bikes better for everyone. So it's awesome.
It is an amazing time. Dude, let's I'm going to let you get on with your Australian day. But before we do, let's just do a shout out for, if someone's listening to this and they are, new to adaptive mountain biking and they're in Australia, who do they come to, and how do they get get the ball rolling?
Yeah, so I guess like if you are interested in adaptive mountain biking in Australia, I guess the team here at Push Mobility, which is I guess like we have a number of staff with bikes, like myself, Renee Junga, and then Alex Welsh as well. We all have bikes, we all ride. We help like with all the day-to-day sort of stuff. But get in touch with us by all means. But I mean I don't mind. We help out lots of people internationally and things like that as well. Just with putting people in touch and things like that. It's more about what not just about what we do here in Australia, but just about helping anyone. Like if anyone, wants help or, guidance or anything like that, like I always answer Instagram messages and things like that. And I'm always keen to chat bikes and help, no matter who it is or, where people are and everything. So yeah, just bikes are good. And we want to share that with everyone. And we want to get as many people involved as we can. So.
Bloody good, mate.
Bloody good, boss.
Bloody good. Bloody good. Thanks, Grant. Let's do this again, but next time let's do it in person.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe at the top of Medina at the summit sort of building would be a nice spot. I can send you a photo.
Don't tell anyone. Like. Don't tell anyone about our plans. Shh. That's a secret. That's a secret we're building, isn't it? I think that might work. We're gonna try and make that happen.
Look, if we can, we'd be all behind it as well, kind of thing. So yeah, we'll make it.
Matt, you want to go to Medina in April? Not April. When is it?
February.
It's in February. Or soon, dude. It's soon. Let's make that happen. Grant, thank you very much.
Thanks, Martyn. Appreciate it.
End it. Fantastic. That was fun.